Give me a second so I can hook Instagram up as well. Now I gotta sit here and do this video for both Instagram and Kung Fu Havoc #2. Alright, let's talk martial arts. So, I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because nobody else will say it. Alright? As a martial artist, I don't give a damn what style you study. There's not a martial artist on earth that does not like flying knees and flying elbows. So that's what this is about right here, right now. Now, let's try not to piss off Rob, because I love Rob. He did a video about arts and craft ladies doing martial arts or whatever, and some of the moves were pretty... Let Rob tell you on that one. But anyway, there was a part where the young lady was biting the guy's arm, but her elbow was right at the dude's face at his jawline. And I was thinking, I meant to ask Rob this morning, because I don't know if he got my questions, but I meant to ask Rob this morning is, why did the girl not elbow the guy in the face? It was right there. Alright, so since we're talking about elbows and knees, I'm going to explain this to you guys, because a lot of y'all don't know who the hell I am. A lot of y'all have no idea who the hell I am. And that's cool. You know, if you just started following me here on Instagram, that's great. If you really want to know more about me, you can go check my Kung Fu Havoc 2 YouTube channel out. But I'm not here to pitch that. I'm here to talk about martial arts, knees, and elbows. I love elbows and I love knees. And sometimes fight situations generally only call for a knee or an elbow. But to use them effectively, you actually need to know how to use them in the first place, or when to use them in the first place. Because anybody can back elbow somebody. It looks great on film. Anybody can fly and knee somebody. It looks great on film. It looks great in principle. The problem is simply this. If you're an ace and I'm not, if you have more fighting experience than I have, it's a high probability that my flying knee or elbow is not going to work. Fighting experience is everything. Your belts don't really matter in the streets. You'll hear that a lot. It's the truth. Your belts don't really matter in the streets. I've beaten black belts, and I'm not a black belt. But I've also been fighting in the streets since I was a kid, since I was 6 years old. There's a big difference with fighting experience versus non-fighting experience. Anybody who has fighting experience can beat most of the time people who don't have fighting experience. So, your fighting skills and your experience is always going to be your teacher. No matter what you learn at dojo, when you get outside, it's a whole different world. I've made videos about this on my YouTube channel, and I'm going to piss off every martial artist today. But I'm going to tell you the truth, and most people don't tell you the truth, that when you're sitting there, and you're stepping back, and you're doing all of this shit, they're great in principle. Alright? And they're great in training and in katas and shit. But if you get into like a UFC fight, if you get into a street fight, if you get into a sport karate fight, some of these things are just practical. I'm not going to ever say any martial art is useless. I'm not going to say that. Even martial arts that I haven't studied, like Sistema, because I didn't know about it. Kali, because I didn't know about it. Krav Maga, because I just like saw the Jennifer Lopez movie, and I wasn't really that impressed with that shit. And I don't know anybody from Israel outside the guy that kept me from destroying my high school life. So outside of that, you know, here's the thing. If you're going to do martial arts, you're going to do martial arts. Don't be centered in just one martial art. Be well-rounded in as many of those damn things as you can find. Because a kick is always going to be a kick. A punch is always going to be a punch. And no matter what style you learn, all these kicks are going to resemble each other. The tornado kick in Taekwondo is the hurricane kick in Kempo. Alright? Let me explain that for those who don't know. Yes, I have taken Taekwondo. I never earned a belt because I didn't take it to earn belts. I took it so that if I ever came across someone who knew Taekwondo, I could use what they know because I'll know the same shit against their ass. I took Kempo as a gift from my bro's mother-in-law's boyfriend, who was a white man. He wasn't teaching me for belts. He was teaching me how to fucking use Kempo. I also had took Kempo before that, but I didn't take the same two types of Kempo. Hopefully that will make sense to y'all, because I just found out about Shaolin Kempo. I never even knew that shit existed. I always thought there was only Okinawa Kempo, and the Kempo I learned it was Korean, which basically is joints and pressure points, you know. And for those we're going to agree to disagree on pressure points. Pressure points work on some people. Pressure points don't work on everybody. Let's put it that way. That way we all can have a peaceful conversation. But I will tell you, I will never agree that size matters. All right? Because the bigger you are, the harder I get to hit you. I'm 5'3". Everybody's bigger than me. And yes, you can count the half. I am 5'3.5". Everybody's bigger than me. But not everybody has been in multiple street fights. Not everybody has stared down a guy who has a broken pop bottle or a guy with a stick and a nail in it. You know, not everybody's been there. Yeah, not everybody's been there. Now, I will say that, and let's say this as least racist as possible, black street fights, white street fights, and Asian street fights are 3 different entities. Alright? If you're not Asian and you haven't been anywhere near Asia or Little Chinatown or Little Hong Kong or wherever state you are that has any of that, and you haven't been in one of those fights, you have not been in an Asian street fight. I have not been in an Asian street fight. If you haven't been in a project area and you're not black, you have not been in a black street fight. I have been in a black street fight. Lots of them. I have never been in a white street fight. White street fights are different. Black street fights are different. Asian street fights are different. So, essentially, all street fights are different, regardless of the color of your opponent, but all street fights are different. There are no rules in a street fight. I understand that. This is why I bring up those elbows and knees. You actually need to know when to be able to utilize those skills. But everybody and their mama love elbows and knees. Uppercut elbow, side elbow plus forearm. You know, you need to know when you can utilize that. You know, you can't just, it's not going to be like the movies. You can't just pop out of nowhere. It's not going to be like in the wrestling ring. Now, in the wrestling ring, we're taught how to hit people with the fatty part of your muscle. Like if you're doing a spinning elbow, you don't hit them with the solid elbow. You more or less hit them with the bicep and tricep area of your arm. And same with the forearm. You hit them with the fatty part. Try not to hit them with the bone, because it's wrestling and it's entertainment. But in a street fight, I would tell you to do the same thing. There's a reason why I would tell you to do the same thing. Alright? 1, your hand is a whole lot easier to break than you think. 2, your elbow is also a whole lot easier to break than you think. And same with your knee. Now, there are a few exceptions. If you're like taking full, hardcore, bona fide, honest to God Thai fighting, which means your ass is in Thailand. It doesn't mean you're in an American dojo and you're Thai fighting shorts, because that's just like the uniform. If you're taking honest, truly to God Thai fighting, some of them have these little rods, like in street fighting and fucking like Filipino stick fighting, where they hit you for hours to build up calluses on your skin so that you become virtually impervious to pain. So you're starting to take hits in everywhere except the neck, the inner elbow, the back of the elbow, the knee, and the inner knee. Now let me explain why that is. Because if you are a Thai fighter, you know this. You know I'm telling you the truth on this. This is your weapon of choice. These elbows and these knees. They are your weapons of choice. Those are also probably the weakest parts of Thai fighters. Because Thai fighters, when they're getting hit with these bars, and these are like thick wooden bars. They're not just reeds. They're like literally bars. As you upgrade your skill, they upgrade the wood so that you can feel how. Why you think they're kicking down palm trees? Yeah, they're kicking down fucking palm trees because they're getting hit by shit like this for like 8 hours or better. You know, that's real Thai fighting. That's not our American watered down version. But for the most part, you know, they're teaching you to harden the core. They're teaching you to harden the body, to harden the muscle. This is not some shit that you see in a Van Damme movie, although you've probably seen it in a Van Damme movie. But in real life, real Thai fighting, if you can get past like certain censors and get certain videos, like old school ESPN actually used to show the shit. Now, you know, censors and all that bullshit, and because they have children as young as 4 doing Thai fighting, now they don't beat the children with the rods. That's like another level, like maybe 11, 12, 13, something like that. But you can see 11, 12, and 13-year-old kids out in these Thai fighting training camps kicking fucking palm trees. So their strongest is their calf muscles for that turning front kick. Like for Taekwondo, the turning round kick, it's the same goddamn kick. It's just shaped differently. And the thing about martial arts is you have to understand when to apply a move. Now, let's talk real. In a fight, how many of you are honestly thinking, jab, jab, punch, jab, punch, jab, kick, punch, jab? No, you're not thinking that shit at all. Your muscle memory is going, but your brain is thinking, I don't want to get hit. That shit's going to hurt. I got to survive this fight. That's what your brain's thinking. But when you can clear that and your brain and your body can work as one, things start to happen. Second nature is a thing. Y'all call it muscle memory now, but when I was younger, it was called second nature. And my second nature is always kicking in when I'm in a fight. It's kicking in when I'm sparring. So that's a kind of a truth of how you train is how you fight. So you got to be real careful about that. You train hard, you fight hard, but you don't train hard against your sparring partner. You know, y'all tit tat. You know, for those who don't know what that means, tit tat. You know, you giving them just enough hit so that they know that they're being hit, but you don't try to fucking hurt them. You can take that quote from Ramsey Dewey, don't hurt your sparring partner. But the thing about martial arts is that we all, as martial artists, everybody's watching, you're a martial artist, and if you're not, you're a martial artist today. We all love forearms, elbows, and knees. Alright? Now, I have multiple styles of martial arts. I have no belt whatsoever, because I never took a martial art to get a belt. I took a martial art so that I could learn how to beat people's ass. Period. Plain and simple. And I'm pretty goddamn good at it. So, you know, the thing is, you have to know how to fight to apply this shit. You also have to know when to apply this shit. And some things you have to learn the hard way. Alright? You really do. Because there are ways out of rear neck and chokes. The first way is to, one, not let a person get you in a rear neck and choke. That's like the number one way. Protect yourself. Do not let them get behind you so they can put themselves in a rear neck and choke. Stop shitting on Aikido. Aikido can lead you to a rear neck and choke if they're not throwing you all over the fucking ground. Don't shit on Kenpo and pressure points. Because you don't know what someone else knows is one of the reasons why generally we wind up getting our asses kicked. It's really that simple. If you have no fighting experience and you're fighting someone who has in-school fighting experience and out-of-school fighting experience, you have a fucking problem. Understand that. It's a whole lot easier to walk into a problem than to walk out of a problem. And you can talk your way out of a fight if you're convincing enough, you know, and I'm 5'3". I ain't talking my way out of shit. Understand that. I'm 5'3". When people look at me, they already assume we're going to beat your ass. They already assume it. So that works for me because if you underestimate me, I win. The second that you think you're going to beat my ass, the second that I have beaten this fight. You don't underestimate anybody. Not by their looks, not by their skill level. Now, you may say that's a little bit hypocritical, and it kind of is, because your skill level can be great, and you can still get your ass kicked by somebody who's never fought a day in their life. It just might be their day. I mean, Riddick Bowe proved that shit. Y'all know Riddick Bowe beat Tyson. Not Riddick Bowe. Excuse me. My mistake, Mr. Riddick Bowe. Buster Douglas proved that shit when Buster Douglas beat Mike Tyson. But Riddick Bowe turned right back around and beat Buster Douglas. So, my man was on the same set, just the wrong names at the wrong place. But just like throwing an elbow when you probably should have threw a knee. You know, you have to understand how this shit works. You know, you have to understand that the difference between karate and kung fu is this big. It really is. So if you're actually learning karate, you're actually learning kung fu as well. You just don't know that you're learning kung fu. And a lot of people will sugarcoat that shit and blend it or not blend it. And here's the thing. If you're going to learn martial arts, my very first suggestion, because I learned karate, I'm not going to send you to anybody who knows karate first. The first thing out of the gates, if you're starting martial arts today, in 2020, 2021, MMA. Go directly to an MMA gym. As far as I know, there's no belts in MMA. I could be wrong, but, you know, MMA. Because MMA is everything. I don't know if MMA has Wing Chun in it, but if you want to take, like, side martial arts, I would definitely do Wing Chun and Wushu. I'm more of the Chinese type martial art guy, and the Koreans type, and the Japanese type more than, like, Sistema. I don't know where the fuck that comes from. Kali, what the hell is the other one? Krav Maga. I'm more into the more main Asian areas, but I prefer Kung Fu. Over all martial arts, I prefer Kung Fu. But if you're going to do anything, and you're just starting, and like say you're like a 5-year-old kid or 7-year-old kid, because I started when I was 7, martial art wise. If you're going to learn anything, MMA is the way to go, because you get wrestling, you get grappling, you get judo, you get karate, you get kung fu, you get taekwondo. You get so much more in an MMA class than you can get to go into any school. Now, I am not the poster child for MMA, but if you're just starting and you start with MMA versus me starting with karate for 3 years, converting over to kung fu, doing taekwondo, doing a karate, doing kempo, doing judo, doing aikido, doing those versus going to MMA. Because MMA, you have all of those. It just depends on your instructor. If your instructor has taken multiple styles, henceforth the M, multiple martial arts, or mixed martial arts, depending on how you want to call it. I call it multiple martial arts myself because you are learning multiple martial arts. I suck at BJJ. I'll be the first one to tell you, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is not for me. I'm 5'3". I can work on my back. I would prefer to be on my feet. I learned in the military, I learned Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the first thing I learned was how much I fucking suck at it. So know what you suck at and turn it into a strength. If you can't turn it into a strength, then find a way to avoid having to use it in general. Alright? I did a video on my YouTube channel with my 14-year-old nephew and me doing some fucking BJJ. So my nephew outweighs me. He's 14, he's taller than me. And I put him on top mount. So that means he's sitting on top of me. And he had the lapel thing going on. So I have battlefield tested some shit, but he's 14. So fighting a 14-year-old versus fighting a 47-year-old is not the same as me fighting somebody who's more on my level. Now, I was teaching him how to do it. So it wasn't really so much as a fight. But I was showing him the options. But I never got on top of him. I let him be the aggressor. So that he knows that just because he has me down doesn't mean I'm going to stay down. And so I learned in the Army, you know, you do this in the C-clamp and you roll him. Well, here's the thing. My nephew's 14. I couldn't roll his ass off me either. Henceforth, I suck at BJJ. Videos on YouTube. You can go find that shit. So what I did was, I got his arms off of me to one side. And I started hitting him in the gut. I started doing it again on the other side. I was showing him transitions that I can do because I know what fucking works for me. Versus what I learned in the Army. When I was in the Army, they put me against a guy who was like 6'4", between 6'2" and 6'4". I couldn't get that sumbitch off me to save my dick. But I could headbutt him in his because there was just enough gap between his legs and my body that I could slide under him. Yeah, and he had me like this. I slid my hands under his legs and pushed his head forward. So when he shot over me, I stuck my head up and hit him in the testicles. I headbutt him in the testicles. Because in real life, I have a saying. If I'm on my back, I'm either dead or knocked the fuck out. So you're not going to get me on my back. And you know, another thing they teach you in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is how to sprawl. A sprawl can turn into a knee to the face really quickly if you don't know what you're doing. Like I said, knowing when to apply a knee can save your life. If you're going to sprawl, you know, you're sprawling. So you're throwing your ass and your hips back. But if you throw that ass and hip back and I grab your head and ram my knee into your sprawl, fight's over. Because I'm putting your ass to sleep. You know? So it helps to be well-rounded, which is why I said if you're going to start a martial art in 2020 or 2021, you want to go with MMA first. And then you can take the other stuff to add to your MMA. Because you can always improve your repertoire in what they don't teach you in MMA by learning a different martial art. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'm probably not the guy who can teach you anything. Because some people you can't teach everything to. You can teach some people some things, you can't teach people everything. I'm one of those people. You're not alone. I'm one of those people. There are some things you can't unteach, which I also made another video about on my YouTube channel. And I tell you, again, if you're a martial artist, I'm sorry. I'm going to say it. I'm going to piss you all off, and I'm sorry. I'm going to say it right now. Let me repeat this. I'm sorry. First, I've been street fighting since I was 6 years old. I know my way around a fight. You don't have to believe it. I don't give a shit. Second, I started martial arts when I was 7. I am 47. I still train in everything that I've been taught before the military, during the military. I understand, because the military, they taught us Taekwondo. I already knew Taekwondo. I started learning BJJ when I got to Delta because I had an issue with Bravo, so they transferred me to Delta. I had an issue with golf before I got to Delta. I wanted to kill a drill sergeant. Anyway, you can't take the fighter or the fight out of the fighter. You can only teach the fighter how to fight better. Alright? But you cannot take the fighter who's level 13 and take him back down to level 1. This is a mistake that every student and sensei makes when you start a new style. Alright? Now I know that this is like co-productive or counterproductive or whatever. It goes against the norm. Alright, let's just put it that way. It goes against the norm. I learned this the hard way when I started taking Taekwondo. When I took karate, there was no forms. It was a freestyle karate. There was no forms. This is how you punch. This is how you kick. This is what they was teaching me. This is where you hit. This is where you hit. You know, Kung Fu, same thing. This is how you punch. Watch my hand. You see it's open. Boom. You close it. You see the difference? This is Wing Chun. Boom. This is Wushu. Boom. It's the same goddamn hand standing. You know. Boom. You know. Who has time to remember closing your fist on impact? So keep it with karate. You know. Boom. Now, same thing with kicks. There's no room in here, so I can't demonstrate, and it's sleeting outside, so I can't take my laptop outside. But the point being made is that, you know, how you kick and how you punch is the smallest difference between karate and kung fu. It really is. In fact, it's probably the smallest difference in every martial art. You have to learn what is necessary in the moment that you are fighting. And sometimes you don't learn that until you catch one to the dome. If you can recover from that, you learn really swiftly that you don't want to get hit again. Getting hit sucks. I don't give a flying fuck who you are. Getting hit sucks. And if you're going to fight, and if any martial artist does not tell you this, they need to go back to school. Day 1, rule 1. You will be hit in a fight. Period. How you recover from that fight decides the rest of the fight. If you don't recover from that fight, well, when you wake up, you'll know what happened. Somebody's going to tell you. Or somebody's going to be done recorded that shit and you'll be YouTube famous or whatever. But, you know, somebody's going to tell you what happened. It's like, oh man, it was a small fight, man. He hit you once, you hit the ground. You walked away, which would be a blessing, because if you knock somebody out, you don't have to add the cherry on top by kicking them while they're down. That's not honorable. Now, I could understand that it could be an adrenaline thing, but at the same time, it's still not honorable. And sometimes you got to fight dirty, especially if it's more than one opponent. If it's more than one opponent, and yes, I've fucking been jumped before on my job at least once, but I've been jumped before in life more than once. So again, from experience, I'm going to tell you that I'm not going to tell you something that's not going to fucking work. And if it works for me, there's no guarantee that it will work for you. There's no guarantee that it won't. Which goes back to your fighting experience is going to be your only true teacher. You can learn all the martial arts in the world and you never had to fight. You've been blessed. You can learn all the martial arts in the world and all you do is get in the fights. You can still be blessed. You can turn that into a blessing if you know what the fuck you're doing. Or if you have a bloodlust and just like fighting. And some of us, myself included, like fighting. The hardest part of being me is not fighting. No, that's just pretty much it. I'm also 5'3". No, I do not have a Napoleon syndrome or a Napoleon complex. I have a problem of I'm not going to sit here and let somebody continue to bully me after high school. I got bullied all through school, from kindergarten to college. Only thing is, most of it was racial bullying until like high school. Then it was bullying. But the bullies would never show up to fight. Don't issue a challenge that you can't win. And if you threaten somebody and they tell you, all right, well, you meet me at this place at this time, and you're the only one there, no, 20% of the people that hear shit like this goes on in school, they don't even show up either. Nobody comes from the school to see if you showed up or not. So basically, you'll be sitting there looking like a damn idiot. And I have been sitting there looking like a fucking idiot in the back of Clark School, Washington Park, Burley Moran, the back of CHS. You name it. If I was supposed to be there, I was there. The motherfucker that I told to be there just didn't show up. It's just that simple. You know, and some people have to learn the hard way that, you know, not everybody who says they're a martial artist is a sham. Some of us actually do know what the fuck we're doing. You know, but elbows and knees. I'm sorry, I got off track. Elbows and knees are very, very great. They definitely are great for movies. But for real life, they are even better The problem in real life is you have to find out when exactly is it going to be usable to be effective. I made some videos about it where I use this hula hoop as the rings. If you haven't took like Iron Man training, not like the Iron Man comic book character. There's an iron body technique that is Chinese Kung Fu. Alright, if you haven't took it, then you know that there's also an iron rings style where you have this ring. It's smaller, but it's thicker. And there are tons of them that go on your arm. Those are styles, the iron ring style for Kung Fu. And I use the hula hoop where I hit there and go around, and then I hit here and go up and pull, and I use my knees. So you have to know when a knee is acceptable while you're in a fight. And when you hook someone this way and you pull them, this knee is closest knee, that's Kung Fu. This knee, this is the farthest knee, but has more torque and power, that's karate. So like I said, there's a small difference. The video's on YouTube. You can go find the shit. I'm not fighting anybody other than Ghostman training. I also did the triangle. A lot of people don't know what the triangle is, but if you're a martial artist and you haven't been trained in the triangle border, which means if my opponent gets into my border, I fucked up. You have to know how long your legs are to protect your border. Alright? Now, in Native American culture, there is a ring on the ground, your rites of passage or whatever. Doesn't have anything to do with martial arts, but I think it's like, what is it? Face your nightmare, face something, and face something else. I think it's like a trial of 3. I'm not going to swear that because I'm not a full-blooded Native American. I just heard about this shit. I don't even know if this shit's actually real. But ask a Native American if they know it, and if they say yes, then I'm on the right track. Alright? Like I said, I'm only half Cherokee. We've only done black shit in my family for the bulk of my life. I didn't really start getting into Native American stuff until my great-grandmother passed and stuff like that. So other than that, you know, I really started getting more into it after the 90s. But I just don't really acknowledge a lot of the shit, you know. I am part Native American, but after having a couple of racist incidents with Native Americans, it's been a hard drive, you know. I was flirting with one of the higher chieftain's daughters, and they told me, we don't want you messing with her because you're not pure blood. Don't ask. It was some tribe from out west that was in the wheelchair basketball team. Hurt my feelings because that girl probably could have been my wife, and this shit was like maybe 15 years ago or better. But the thing is with martial arts, if you're being taught martial arts, you need to make sure you're being taught correctly, because, you know, you need to know when you can apply a knee and an elbow. Sometimes shit happens on a whim. I'll guarantee you that. Sometimes somebody over-rotates when they go past. So you can ridge hand them, or you can elbow them, or you can knee them. Yeah, you can do it better this way. You can ridge hand, because they're throwing a punch, sidestep, ridge hand, or sidestep break, and then strike that way, because this would be karate combo of Kung Fu and karate. I sidestep, I broke. This is the Kung Fu part, and the punch. Now if I break and ridge hand, that would be more karate versus Kung Fu, but it would still kind of be more Kung Fu because my opponent's right here, which is the other difference of karate and Kung Fu that they don't really explain. With karate, we're evened up, and it's like I'm on the inside, but you also have another hand. With Kung Fu, I get to the outside of you. It's more easier for me to control the fight from the outside than the inside, and it also depends on what style of Kung Fu you are taking. And there are thousands of different styles of Kung Fu. If you're going to do animal Kung Fu like Tiger or Dragon, you're going to do a lot of fucking grips. Alright? If you're going to do Mantis, you're also going to do grips. If you're going to do the Snake or the Crane, there are grip techniques in these styles that they just aren't utilized when you're on TV. Yeah, they really aren't. They are not utilized properly on TV. When you do Mantis and you swing up and you hit an underarm target, this is the part where people who don't like pressure points can leave the video now. But when you hit an underarm target, for Mantis, it's a claw. It looks like this when you start, you know, but it becomes this when you have to do a grip. So if you have to grip under here and grab some fatty tissue, it becomes a claw. It is a claw. Mantis have claws. You know, just like tigers and dragons, they have claws. So when you have to do a gripping move, you're gripping and you're locking. And 9 times out of 10, there are pressure points under here. So if you're not in the pressure points, yeah, we're not going to go directly into that shit. But for the most part, here, pull. If you're going to pull them, and you can pull them, and then you can do a forearm. No. Now, again, if they're throwing a jab and you want to sidestep and bring in a knee, there's not a martial artist watching me right now who doesn't want to do that to someone. Sidestep a punch, boom, you want to throw in a knee. And your knee target can be anywhere here in center mass and anywhere from the central line. Now, I'm short, so my target's generally going to be here or even here, because I'm going to try to stop you. So if you're throwing a punch and it's your right hand, which most people are right-handed, I'm going to get to the outer side of your right side of your body. So this is your body, I'm over here. You threw a right punch, just so that you understand what I'm doing before I do it. You're throwing a right punch, I'm blocking. Now if I want to get nasty with this block, I can push an elbow and pull a forearm and break your shit. But I don't want to do that. I want to pull you and throw this knee anywhere in here. Now if you're coming from this angle for Kung Fu, move my stool. For Kung Fu, if you're coming, and let's say it's a left hand, you're charging and you're throwing a left. So I'm right here, I'm over here, I'm going to pull you the same way that I was going to break your shit. Instead of breaking it, I'm just going to pull you. As I pull you, I'm going to throw this knee. That would be karate. Excuse me. That would be Kung Fu. Fucked up my words. So this would be Kung Fu. It's the closest knee. Direct target, kidney. Alright? So if I want to do karate now, same thing. You know, I'm going to throw this knee. Water. I'm going to throw this knee up in here. God damn it. 2 waters. So you didn't think I was lying. So I'm going to throw that knee. Now I sidestepped, I pulled, and this is Kung Fu, so I'm not going to do that. I sidestepped, I pulled, I'm going to throw this knee, and when I throw this knee, there's no room in here, but I'm going to torque, not your body. This is still going to be this way, but my body's going to shift as hard as I can into your solar plexus and your sternum and your gut. And if I can get up here, I'm going to try to stop your breath. So if you can't breathe, you can't hurt me. Now from there, you're going to be hinged over. From the other one, you're still going to be hinged over. Now, I can switch it up. I can put you in an arm bar because I still have your arm. And when I put you in the arm bar, from the first knee to the arm bar, I can drag you by the hair to the ground, or I can put my elbow in your shoulder blade. Boom! You know, I'm going to bring you down anyway. You may be bigger than me, so standing arm bar probably won't work because you're going to be able to jerk your arm back. But if you're not bigger than me or you don't know how your body works, then I got you all day. So from this knee, and you're hinged over, I can elbow you directly in your fucking spine. Now, do I recommend this? Fuck yes, I do. Know why? Because the guy whose ass you're whipping with this shit that I'm showing you, he's trying to whoop your ass too. He's not going to show you much mercy, but when it comes down to a fight, you have 2 options. Beat his ass or get your ass beat. That's pretty much it. That's how fights work. Either I'm going to beat your ass or you're going to beat mine. There is no in between unless we're both really, really good and we fight to a draw. But the knees and elbows, every martial artist that's taking a martial art right now to this day, there's not one among you, unless you can't literally do it because of a body issue or a health issue where you can't lift your leg. I had a hip replacement, so my knee strikes are never going to be as good as they used to be. And when this hip gets replaced, my knee strikes are not going to be as good as they used to be. Now, I was on the shelf for 3 years and some change because the doctors looked at me and said, James, here's what's going to happen. You're not going to do any martial arts, which is all I have. You're not going to do any karate, wushu, kung fu, wing chun, anything that involves you and your feet leaving the ground. That shit's out. You can do Tai Chi. Fuck wants to do Tai Chi? I mean, it's good for old people. It's good for exercise. Who wants to do... You can't use elbows and knees in Tai Chi. That's not even one of... You're doing your little wind on the air, ground on your feet things, your push hands. You know, no knees, no elbows in Tai Chi. If I'm practicing Tai Chi, that's the only elbow I'm allowed. No knees. I prefer knees over elbows. You're going to find, as a martial artist, what you prefer. Hands or feet. You're going to find out that really quickly, and most of us prefer feet because you're learning martial arts. However, Hands are very important in martial arts as well, but I'm more of a foot guy than a hand guy. So when they looked at me and said, James, no wushu. Y'all know what wushu is, right? It's a bunch of flying stuff. Yeah, no wushu. No tornado kicks, no jumping spin kicks, no butterfly kicks, anything that involves your feet leaving the ground. None of that. You can do basics, but you'll have to do low grade, as in northern or southern Shaolin, whichever Shaolin where you only do low kicks to the shin, like Kung Fu and Wing Chun. That's it. We don't want you lifting your leg above your hip. Either leg. We don't want you doing any of that shit. But you can do Tai Chi, because there's no real kicks in Tai Chi. And I'm sitting here, and I'm at the doctor's while they're explaining this shit to me weeks before I even have the surgery. And then, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, this dude just fucking killed me. Now, because he's going to take my old bones out and put a big old metal shard in my ass, and I will never be able to do martial arts again. Now, have you know, that was a white guy. I went to therapy. I had one black therapist, one Asian therapist, and 3 white therapists. All 3 of the white therapists and the black therapist told me, Kung Fu's out. You will never do martial arts again. Thank God for the Asian therapist. And maybe it's because he was a martial artist. Or maybe he wanted me to not die and commit suicide and shit like that. But he straight told me, look dude, if you want to do martial arts, you can do martial arts. I will make you one total suggestion first though. You can't do what you used to do. So if you did wushu, all the aerial, out. If you do anything this aerial, like tornado kicks and shit like that, you're not going to do that for at least 3 years. He was honest with me about this shit. But he said, you will be able to do it again. But you got to do what we tell you to do first. Now, how come the other 4 therapists couldn't say that? No, the black guy was like, well, you'll be able to run, you'll be able to jog, but you'll never do Kung Fu again. The 3 white therapists, 2 were female, by the way, was god-awful sexy. But they all had wedding rings. I don't mess with married women. But they were sexy. They were worth the risk. But anyway, all jokes aside, they all looked at me and said, you're done. They looked dead at me and said, you're done. And I will make another video about this later. So thank you guys for watching. Be seeing ya. Did that stop? No, it didn't.